Hey Omnibus collectors and X-fans, it's time for another Omnibus of the week. I know I was off for a few weeks after we did that fan expo in Dallas, which we got a couple videos for. We kind of took a little time off. That took a lot out of us, and we've just been so busy. I started up classes again, and with both my wife and I working like full-time, and then me having class and blah, 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 it gets to be a lot. And so I apologize that it's been a few weeks since my last Omnibus of the week, but I'm taking the initiative to get back on track. But anyway, in that, now it's time to talk about the Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 2. So, I talked about Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 1 recently, and that's the beginning of the Claremont stuff. So this is the second volume of all the Claremont stuff. Claremont's amazingly long and amazing run. So this book itself, grab the dust jacket behind me, collects issues 132 through 141, annuals 4 and 5. That's X-Men 132 to 141, and then it's renamed as the Uncanny X-Men officially with issue 142. And then it goes on collecting through 153. And then it also has Avengers Annual number 10 and Marvel Fanfare 1 through 4. And there's also a lot of different stuff back in the supplemental material that's not listed on the back. Dust Jacket has the image from one of the first issues that's in this particular collection. Of course, this is from the Dark Phoenix saga. The spine looks like the spine usually does on these books. Doesn't have any design, it's just a plain black with white. And then the back, we have the cover roll going through all the different covers of the issues that are collected within. And then there's a quote on the back from Noel Murray of the Los Angeles Times. Under Chris Claremont's stewardship, aided by a string of young artists who also made their reputations on the book, the Uncanny X-Men became a chart topper, spinning fan favorite storylines that have since been adapted into the various animated X-Men cartoons and nodded to in the recent blockbuster X-Men movies. Of course, they're referring to the Dark Phoenix saga and Days of Future Past, which are definitely the headliners as far as the stories that are collected in this volume go. The Dark Phoenix saga was actually like the first 3 or so issues of that were in the first omnibus, and this wraps it up and gives us the rest of it, and then there's a few issues in between before it gets to Days of Future Past, which is of course the 2 issues, and then there's a bunch of different material after that, but those are the things that most fans are going to be familiar with, and that's really the big, I guess, the selling point for this volume, aside from just being part of the greater Claremont run. And if you're a fan like myself and a lot of others of us who are trying to collect that entire run in oversized hardcovers, then this is a big part of that. Anyway, it doesn't collect that many issues of Uncanny X-Men. It's 132 to 153, but there is a lot of supplemental material. As I mentioned, it has Marvel Fanfare number 1 through 4, so that is a story where we see the X-Men heading off to the Savage Land to meet again with Sauron. That was a pretty fun story, so that's another reason I'd say to grab this one. And then it also has a lot of different stuff in the back matter. But let's go ahead and look right at the book. Uncanny X-Men Omnibus. Of course, this is the new style of the covers, not the faux leather that they used to have. So it does have color rather than just being the embossed print with like a silver leaf on it. The side, the red logo, looks exactly like the spine of the actual dust jacket. The back is blank. Get on the inside. This silvery flyleaf, if you will. Collection editor on this one was Corey Settlemeyer, who I think had mentioned in the past that he's already planned how to break up the series for the subsequent omnibus volumes. So now it's just a matter of time. They already know what they're doing. It's just a matter of time of seeing it happen. And then there's a table of contents in here that breaks up all the stuff that's in there, as always, and we get to see all the different artists and writers and stuff. Of course, the writer is going to be Chris Claremont, and then it's got John Byrne and Dave Cockrum are the main artists that are featured in this book. Of course, coming off of the tail end of the first omnibus, this book continues on with John Byrne as the artist, but Byrne would soon thereafter leave the series because of creative differences, very unfortunately, because he's just amazing on the book. And he was replaced by Dave Cockrum, who y'all might recognize as being the artist that preceded John Byrne. So Dave Cockrum wraps up this volume, and then he does several issues after this volume finishes as well. Just take a look. The book, of course, as with all Marvel Omnibus, the spine is very nice, so it lays open as soon as you open it. And you can see that eye hole, if you will, in the spine, so you can tell that this is just going to lay open nice and flat. No gutter loss, really nice. Have to praise Marvel for that. And there's a lot of supplemental material in here. After the last issue of the series, or last issue that's in this volume wraps up, there's a section that's just titled The Supplements, and it contains a bunch of issues that are not alluded to on the back of the dust jacket, including Marvel Treasury Edition numbers 26 and 27, Marvel Team Up number 100, Bizarre Adventures number 27, and Phoenix the Untold Story number 1. This is written partly by Chris Claremont. Also, there's Mary Jo Duffy, Scott Edelman, and Bob Layton as writers on this material. So it's a lot of different material that happened around the same time, and there's a lot. It's actually quite a bit of stuff in there that makes up that supplemental back matter. So a nice little way to round this volume out. And of course, after all the supplements, there's even more back matter, including some sketches and some pencil work and whatnot from the different artists for interior and exterior art. Here's some cool stuff here as well. Some more cool images from the back matter. So as always with Marvel's Omnibus, they provide us with a good amount of back matter to really round out the volume and just give us a lot of cool material. And then I think the first volume also had this. This is a little cover gallery of the X-Men Classic covers, which X-Men Classic was the reprint book that was reprinting Claremont's run in a new series, kind of to let people have a chance to catch up if they weren't following it from the beginning. And it has brand new covers by various artists, like I know that Mike Mignola wound up doing some stuff in there. And then they also add in the trade paperback covers for paperback editions of like Dark Phoenix Saga, and also Days of Future Past is in there as well. I actually had this one right here a while back. That was like little 2-issue, tiny little prestige format thing. Anyway, so there's a lot of good supplemental material in there to really round out the volume. As far as the story goes, it's early Claremont stuff. It's going to be awesome. If you're a fan of that era of the X-Men, then this is definitely going to be an A+ book for you. In my opinion, the material in this one is not quite as good as the material in the first Omnibus, especially when that one starts getting going. This one, of course, has the big storylines that I mentioned, like Dark Phoenix and Days of Future Past. But after that, it's just kind of going through the motions, and it's not as engrossing. But we're leading towards bigger things that are coming in after this book, like, you know, when Wolverine gets his series, new members of the X-Men pop in, a lot of new characters wind up popping in, but that's after this, so we'll talk about that later. But anyway, so there's a bunch of great material. Y'all know that I mentioned in my first in the video for the first Omnibus that I'm a huge fan of John Byrne's work on the X-Men, and I prefer Byrne very much so to Dave Cockrum. And I love Cockrum's art, but I think that Byrne is much better. So like I said, Byrne winds up leaving the title during this book, and he's replaced by Dave Cockrum again, or Dave Cockrum comes back on. And I think that in this point, Cockrum's art has really evolved from where it was previously, possibly also because he's trying to emulate a little bit of what Byrne did on the series. There's definitely some influence, I think, of Byrne in Cockrum's art in this book. The way that he draws the characters outside of their costumes and stuff especially, but it doesn't exactly measure up to what Byrne had, in my opinion. However, there's a lot of other artists featured in here, especially one that I want to point out would be Paul Smith, who winds up coming on and taking over the art duties on the Uncanny X-Men after Cockrum. Smith does a really awesome job in his in here. He does the issues of Marvel Fanfare, so he does a really awesome job of portraying characters like Sauron going up against the X-Men, and it's really he does a lot of really beautiful artwork in those issues. We also have artist Michael Golden in this volume doing the Avengers annual number 10, which is in here because not only is it written by Chris Claremont, but it does feature the X-Men in a pretty major storyline, which introduces us to Rogue, who at the moment is a member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but as the series goes forward, we know that she winds up being a really major character in the Uncanny X-Men. So overall, this is an A+ volume. I'm not going to say anything less than that about this. Y'all know how much I love the X-Men. You guys know how much I love Claremont's run on the X-Men, and I've been doing this whole readathon, and it's just been a real treat to get to go through a bunch of these issues, because while I've read a bunch of those major story arcs like Dark Phoenix and Days of Future Past before, a lot of this stuff is completely new to me, and it's really cool to go through in the chronological order and see just, I've been going from issue 1 and just going forward, seeing how everything evolves and these characters pop out. And one of the things that I really love about Claremont's run is that you can see little things that he puts in there that wind up evolving further on into something larger. Introducing stuff like Wolverine having, this past that is really unspoken. And then later, having him, you see that he knows Japanese. He falls in love with a Japanese woman, and then later on that comes into play in his own miniseries. We get introduced to new characters like Rogue that I mentioned. In this volume, we get Kitty Pryde, one of my personal favorite X-Men of all time, and we get to see her evolve as a character and interacting with Colossus, and there's those little hints that they're going to have a relationship later on. And then there's just all these little clues and hints and little plot lines that Claremont carefully threads along, and it's things that maybe won't come into play for years down the line, but I just have to respect his abilities as a storyteller for really just organically telling this 17-year-long story in a way that I don't think many other creators could have done. So in that's why I think that Claremont's run on the X-Men is one of the greatest runs on not only that franchise, but in all of comics of all time, especially standing out during the 70s and the 80s of comics. And there's actually a few things in this volume in the Marvel Fanfare issues where they kind of play with, it's a little comic where the editor is like talking about Claremont, and Claremont talking about how like X-Men is the top selling book, because Claremont changed the X-Men from being an underselling book that wound up getting canceled into being the top selling book, the highest selling franchise, the biggest thing that Marvel had on the stands. And you can really understand why. And I know sometimes the writing seems a little dated, but it's just overall, I can't praise it enough. Like, you might say it seems a little dated, but I swear, like, once you get into it and you get past like some of the things that make it seem dated, like every issue opening with like explaining things in detail, or like every time someone uses their powers that Claremont feels like he needs to tell us what their powers are. But once you get past those little things, just letting that story unravel and letting yourself enjoy it, it's just without a doubt one of the greatest experiences that I myself has ever had in comics. So if you're an X-Men fan, then I know that you've at least perused parts of Claremont's run, the better known things, Dark Phoenix, Days of Future Past, God Loves, Man Kills, stuff like that. But I implore you, it's such a great and different experience to go and read through all of it. And that said, I have to say that owning, these Uncanny X-Men Omnibus is just a great thing for any X-Men fan to do. If you are a fan of the X-Men at all, then this is definitely a book that you need to own. And if you've never been a fan of the X-Men in the past, this might be one of those books that you'd want to pick up to show you what it is that makes them such appealing characters. To show you that it's not your typical superhero book, that this is, it's like this superhero drama built around a bunch of characters who, because of the fact that humanity hates them for who they are, they have to stick together, and they love each other, and they treat each other like a family because humanity almost forces them to stick together. Everyone can relate to the X-Men in some way, and there's going to be at least one character that you can relate to. And in these Claremont stories, he's just churning out all these characters, just great, amazing characters who are all so different in so many ways. And I could sit here for an hour talking about every single character, but I don't have that kind of time. So I'm just going to tell you that this is personally one of my absolute favorite omnibus of all time. I wholeheartedly recommend it to comic fans. So of course, there's not a third one yet. there's actually a pretty big gap. So as far as my X-Men readathon goes, there's a pretty big gap between this volume and the next oversized hardcover. So what I'm going to be doing during this time is I'll make a couple videos of the material that I would pack into the third and fourth omnibus, as far as I have organized it in my head. So the next video is going to be really interesting because not only am I going to be talking about Uncanny X-Men, but I'm going to also be talking about New Mutants. So hopefully that's something. I was really excited to finally get to the New Mutants, so hopefully y'all are just as excited, if you've been following my readathon, to hear what I have to say about that book, and then further on down the line, books like X-Factor, Excalibur, and all that stuff. So I'm really excited to talk about that stuff. I hope that you're excited to hear me talk about it, and I hope that you really enjoyed hearing me talk about this volume, and I hope that it's something that you guys want to grab. If you haven't already, I highly recommend it again, and you know, grab it before it goes out of print, because I know the first volume went out of print not terribly long ago, so move fast on this one before those prices skyrocket on the second market. So anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. It means so much to us for you guys to stay tuned, watch these videos, have fun along with me. As always, you know, give me some comments down below, some feedback. What did you think about the stories in here? What do you think about what I have to say? You know, discuss stuff with me. Like, give me a comment and I'll comment back. I try to get really regular with that and have little discussions about what I'm talking about with you guys, anyone who wants to comment. Hit it with the like button if you like the video, and make sure that if you're not already subscribed, you press that subscribe button so you can see all my new videos that they're coming out. And also don't forget to check out the website, www.theomnibuscollector.com. We're always having a lot of conversations about upcoming books, what's out there, you know, different recommendations and stuff. Every day I take everyone's questions and I answer everything as quickly as I can, as well as I can. So it's a really awesome community that we've got over there. A lot of cool people giving good advice and recommendations to everyone else. Check it out. I have a great time on the site. I know a lot of other people do, and I hope that you will too. So we'll see you guys next time. Hopefully it's not as long of a break between this one and my next video. I really enjoy doing this, so just stay tuned and you know, be excellent unto each other, and we'll see you next time.